Hello, everyone, and welcome to, that is right, another episode of the USA Volleyball Show. We are the official podcast of USA Volleyball. Laura, how's it going?
Clarence, it's great. So excited to be on the podcast with you today.
What's new? What is new in your life?
You know, there is only one thing new in my life, and I think you'll understand, and it's the Dodgers in the World Series.
Oh my God, that Grand Slam walk-off. Can we just talk about that a little bit? I'm not a diehard Dodger fan or baseball fan overall, but obviously go Doyers. But insane. Wow, you can't write that.
Insane. You know, I was out with some friends, and we specifically, I had this scheduled happy hour, but I'm like, listen, if I'm going to stay out, we need to go to a bar with TVs. and it turned out that there were a lot of Dodger fans in the bar. And so it was really, really great to watch it with some fans and just have that moment where you're like, what is happening? When Freddie hit that grand slam, it was terrific. And Saturday's game got a little stressful. You know, we're recording this on Monday for the first game in New York. And by the time this airs, we're going to have a much better picture of what's happening.
I was going to say we'll be 3-0, but
it could be over by the time this airs. We don't know. That is pretty much the center of my life right now has been baseball playoffs as a diehard Dodger fan. Yeah.
I have a friend who I play volleyball with on Sundays. We used to coach together at Velocity, and her and her husband, they're diehard Yankees fans. So I was just like, hey, how about those Dodgers? And she has not responded, and I finally got a reaction out of her yesterday, which was hilarious. So great time to be a Dodger fan, and this has been really good to follow and watch too. I haven't been able to watch a full game. It's always been either coaching or probably coaching. It's just always been coaching because of that too, but yeah, gotta love sports.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's I'll be sad when baseball season, is going to be over by next week. And, we're already in basketball, hockey, NFL season, and WNBA was a couple weeks ago that it finished. So yeah, but I'll be sad when baseball season's over. Plenty of sports going on.
I think it's going to fly by. I mean, this year has kind of flown by too, so it'll be spring ball before you know it.
Yes. But also before that, it becomes volleyball season again.
That too.
Yes.
That's just a given. I don't even think
it never ends.
That's just muscle memory.
As a coach, it never ends for you. And you're consistently doing something. And by the way, how is your high school team doing?
We are doing good, and I need to, I said that the way I just said it because I need to remember that we are having an incredible season. What is our record right now? I should probably know that off the top of my head. It is, so we're 14-8.
Right.
So last year we finished 9-14, and this year we have an opportunity if we win tomorrow's match, which is our last home game of the regular season. It's also senior night. It's also our last league match too. We play James Irwin High School. So if we win that, we'll be 14-9, which totally just went in that record from we had last year. We're 7-4 in league. And right now the way the regional playoffs works for 3A is the tournament takes the top 36 teams out of 3A, if I'm not mistaken. And right now, we had a little bit of a setback in a tournament that we had on Saturday. We could have gotten first place. Some things fell through, happens with the game, and we ended up finishing 4th overall. So now we are number 27 out of 36. So if we win tomorrow, I think we're still on track to make playoffs for the first time in program history. So now we have a plus 500 record, have a really good chance at making playoffs, and from there, who knows? But it'll be some really good things to do and have our current seniors be a part of. And a lot of them have been playing varsity since they were freshmen in the program or even close to it. So a lot of the hard work over the years has definitely paid off, and we're going to go from there. But that's that for
awesome.
So And of course, there's boys club and then girls club starting up next week. Oh my goodness. I just reminded myself of that too. So just volleyball. It's year round for us, for me. Mm-hmm.
And you loved every minute of it.
I do. Mm-hmm. Even stressful moments that upset me and all that other stuff too. But yeah, I do love it. And I'm very glad I get to be a part of it. And I'm glad I'm at Banning. There's a lot of freedom that I have to run the program the way I want to run it and just make sure the buy-in is there. And I have an amazing coaching staff, we have amazing admin, people who work the games. Our parents are great. It's just a really good culture that we've been able to build and continue. So who knows, stay tuned, playoffs are around the corner. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's that.
Awesome. And, Halloween coming up? Got any plans?
No, not really, actually, because it's during the week, so it's really hard to take time off and all that stuff. And, I wasn't going to do any celebrating over this last weekend. We had tournaments and we did have a Halloween party that I showed up as a Jedi with for our high school team. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice job.
Purple lightsaber, had that too. And then
were you Mace Windu?
I was.
Yeah.
I didn't wear a bald cap, but I was Mace Windu, technically.
Got it.
But yeah, had that. Other than that, I'm taking Wednesday off to actually go see T-Pain at Red Rocks. So that'd be a lot of fun. He's with Akon.
I just saw that he was coming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, it'll be a work from home day on Thursday. And we won't have anything volleyball related since the regular season will be done too. So I think I'm going to give the team a couple days off, and then we'll pick things back up on Monday if we do find out about the regional tournament too. I think it'll be a good time to give them a little bit of separation, a little bit of mental time off to get homework done, work, all the other stuff. And then on Monday, if we get the green light to say, hey, or we get the notification or whatever it is, however we're notified about the tournament, we're picking it up on Monday, and we are doing some good things there too. But what about you? You got any Halloween plans?
Not really. I will be in San Luis Obispo for Cal Poly softball reunion. Every year we go there. There's an alumni game, which I don't play in anymore. It's really just to see people. And I don't think that we'll do anything Halloween-y. I think that I arrived that day, and I think it's just a chance, to get together. It's been over 30 years since I was playing in college, and we still get together every year, a core group of us, because, college ball, whether it's softball or volleyball, these are ties that are often unbreakable. So
they're lifelong.
So don't plan to. I think we're in an Airbnb, so we're gonna have candy just in case, because we wouldn't want to let any kiddos down. But yeah, no big plans.
Sounds chill. Like there's time to socialize, have a good time, connect, have a reunion, and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to get out of town too. Mm-hmm. And I think it's Halloween, so it'll probably snow here, so I'll get out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I hope it doesn't. It's been don't jinx us like that. Don't do it.
Halloween weekend.
That is true.
That's when the cold always finally comes in here.
Yeah. You say you guys are gonna have candy. What's you have a specific kind that you always buy, either for yourself or for the trick-or-treaters, or a favorite kind?
100-gram bars.
100-gram. Mm-hmm.
And it is my thing, and I really like Rolos too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if sweet tarts, but not chewy sweet tarts. The little packets where you get like 3 in them. I'm not a chewy sweet tart gal.
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
I'm more of I like Mike and Eggs. I like the sweeter kind of things. Mike and Eggs, Sour Patch Kids, gummy worms, random stuff like that. The pretty basic stuff,
Yeah, I have to keep Sour Patch Kids out of my house because I love them so much. It'll just rip my tongue to shreds. So.
And throughout the season, one of our coaches bought the big Costco bags of the Sour Patch Kids. She's like, hey coach, look, boom. Every time I'm just either supposed to be on the court throwing balls in for warm-ups or hitting them. I'm just like, I need Sour Patch Kids because they're there. And we know they're there.
They're there.
They're addicting.
Yeah.
Hopefully that could be our next sponsor. We're talking about it now. So Sour Patch, if you are watching it or tuning in, let's shoot us an email at theusavshow@usav.org. Let's talk sponsors.
Yes. We'll eat the entire show. Yeah. All right. Well, we should probably get going on this episode for all our listeners. But before we start, listen to our previous episode 103, where we sit down with two-time Olympic medalist and U.S. women's national team middle blocker, Chiaka Obagu. Chiaka talks to us all about her Olympic experience in Paris, winning the silver medal, how she was introduced to the game, and so much more. So be sure to tune in and listen or watch that episode on our YouTube channel. Right now, it's time for News with Hughes.
We have some breaking news. For those of you who aren't already aware, which I think the whole volleyball world is aware, but Coach Karsh Karai has been going full circle by taking the helm of the U.S. men's national team. That is right. He is now switching over from the women's national team over to the men's to start off this next quad going into LA 2028. I just want to talk about how we found out about that really quick. We were actually just about to get started with our budget walkthroughs for those of you who are unaware of that too. Us at the national office, we have a huge budget walk of all the departments. We plan out all finances for the 2025 season or whatever's leading into whatever season that is too. And John gets on the call, says, "Hold on, guys, we are about to release this." And then literally like a minute after he said it, we get the press release. It's all over social media. So shout out to Marcom for that one. I know that was a lot of heavy lifting and studded heavy lifting there too. But we got the news there, and it was quite the Woj bomb for those of you who are aware of Woj bomb the world too. But we're going to be trying our best to get back to him on the show to chat about the decision and chat about goals and expectation. But again, really, really big news, and congrats to you, Karsh, for the new opportunity with the men's team. Also, congratulations to Beach Paris Olympians Chase Budinger and Miles Evans for winning this weekend at the AVP League in Anaheim, California. They were taking on Avery Drost and Phil Dahlhauser, in which their match included the longest set of AVP League play so far. I wonder the timing on that one there too, but must have been something really, really special.
Well, the difference thing is in AVP League play this time, the sets only go to 15.
Okay.
So I think it went to like, what I understand is 21-19. So okay. It seems like a regular set. But,
yeah, it should have. Okay.
But yeah, it was overtime for sure for AVP League. Kind of a cool new format they have going.
That's interesting too. Total off this side. I was watching volleyball last night too in Hawaii, and CSUN actually went in extra points, and I think the third set of the match, I think they went 31-29, and I think Hawaii ended up taking the set, but the entire match went 5. It was just really good volleyball. Hawaii barely pulled it off, and I think they won 15-13, but that was a really good match to watch on a super late Sunday night. So just wanted to add that into the news a few there too. But circling back into this thing, congratulations to Tegan Van Gunst and Kim Hildreth for winning bronze at the Beach Pro Tour Elite 16 in Brazil last week. Also, a congratulations to Lev Prima and Dave Wizorik and Katie Lindstrom and Tiffany Svensson for securing the silver medals at the Norseca Honduras Tour. Also, congrats to Diego Perez and Ryan Lerna, and also Rachel Kramer and Jade Race for winning bronze medals at the same event. A lot of congratulations going around for that event too. So shout out to everyone there. Also, follow along all the action on USA Volleyball social media, and for all of the latest news, visit usavolleyball.org.
All right. Now in today's episode, we've got a great one for you. We sit down with 6-time Paralympic medalist and U.S. women's sitting national team middle blocker, Lora Webster. She talks to us about her Paralympic experience in Paris, winning back-to-back-to-back gold medals, how she was introduced to the game, and we talk about motherhood, as Laura is the proud mom of 4 kids. I believe they are all 11 and under. She's got a lot to talk about there. So here is Lora. Lora Webster, welcome to the USA Volleyball Show. We're excited to have you. This is actually your second time, but the first time was a long time ago back in Tokyo, and I think it was a live-ish episode. Was it you were in Tokyo when we did that? Is that correct? Does anybody remember that? Yeah, you're like, I think BJ was with you, and it's a very long time ago.
I know it was a long time ago. I can't remember if it was before Tokyo, after Tokyo. I have no idea.
It was very brief. It was definitely one of the brief episodes as well too. I think it was during the actual games in Tokyo.
Okay, that was a couple of ago. Then that was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. It officially makes you a friend of the pod now, though, as on the second time. Yep. We have to start by saying congratulations, back to back gold medals. Pretty big.
Yes,
big for the sport, big for the USA, big for you. You have been at every Paralympics for women's sitting. How did this podium spot, this gold medal, compare to previous gold medals?
So yes, very, very long time, and so grateful for all the years that I've had on the team. This time around, so I usually sob all the time. I cry so easily. In this games, I didn't cry on the podium, and I always do. And so it was like, it kind of summed up the entire feeling of Paris for me. Like, it felt too soon to be back at another games since Tokyo. Like, it didn't, even when we got into the village, it was like, just didn't feel like it was the Paralympics. Like, it didn't feel like a big event kind of thing. And I don't know why that feeling was, but when I was on the podium, it kind of like just carried over. But so for whatever that reason was, it was absolutely unbelievable. It was so much fun to see Heather absolutely dominate, and just to be alongside her while she played, just lights out amazing. And I love being on the court, and just having the opportunity to do that again was just amazing. And knowing that, we made history winning 3 golds in a row, which was really awesome. And then we got to celebrate wheelchair basketball because they did it like 2 hours later. And then with my friends there, I just remind them that we did it first. It was a great experience. And, since there were so many of us that had done this together in Tokyo, it was so nice to be able to actually experience it this time around, and to give what Whitney and Emma had their first games in Tokyo. And so they didn't get like the full feel of the opening ceremonies and closings and all of that. And so it was so much fun to relive that with them, and just have a really just celebratory time the whole time we were there. It was a lot of fun.
Was it your first time in Paris overall?
No. So I spent 24 hours in Paris. We took my parents to Italy, which is where my husband's from. Yeah. And on our way, we did 24 hours in Paris, and we walked 16 miles in the 18 hours that we were there during daylight. And it was unbelievable. We had a great time. We did not eat any French food. It was ridiculous. The only thing by the time we got back to our Airbnb was McDonald's was open for the kids, and that was literally the meal that they had in Paris. And it is so embarrassing, and I hate that. But we saw everything, and it was great.
Well, I mean,
but I will say that the Paris volunteers and the way that they put this on, the volunteers were phenomenal, and the city was great, and just the whole experience and how Paris hosted was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, compared to that time and this time, you want to talk a little bit about your overall experience in Paris?
So we only got out one day, which is just, we were there for so long. It felt like we were there forever. But we only had one afternoon to go out, and we went to the Arc de Triomphe and the Eiffel Tower. So we did the big ones. Then we walked around a little bit on the Champs-Élysées and got some food. And we really, we tried to sit down at a French restaurant. Cleo wanted escargot. That was her goal for Paris, was to try escargot. And we tried to sit down in a restaurant and just order escargot and French fries. And they kicked us out. They told us that you have to order entrees. There are 9 people. You must have 9 entrees. So we never got our escargot. We ended up at a French version of a sports bar and got very Americanized food. So it wasn't exactly what we were looking for, but the waiter was wonderful, and he was great. He said he had a bunch of Olympians in there, and he is collecting pins from all the teams. It was a great spot that we ended up in, but it was a funny experience.
Mm-hmm. Since coming back, I was at the games with you, and since coming back, I've talked to a lot of people who were at both the Olympics and Paralympics. and some like outsiders, people who actually don't work for the USOPC. And what I've heard is by far the Paralympics were their favorite. A lot of it was because of the French crowd and how it changed from supporting French athletes to supporting everybody, because, you know, it was probably very new for them to experience this. I mean, a lot of people are seeing, when they go to the Paralympics, they're seeing it for the first time. Whether that's right or wrong, that's the way it is. And it all just seemed, the Paralympics seemed very next level to me compared to previous Paralympics. What was your feeling about that?
So one of my favorite moments from our games was when we played France, because it wasn't a competitive match at all. They're a new team, and but their fans in the stadium, they cheered like they were winning the gold medal point with every point. And they only scored like 8 points the entire match. But every point, it was unbelievable. The place was completely packed. They had like fat heads of all their players in the stands, and they cheered so loudly. And it was the most exciting environment. It was so much fun. After the match, we sat there instead of going back to our court and, in the locker room and stuff. A few of us sat out on the court and I sat there just listening and just watching everybody, because one of their players was giving an interview, and nobody left. The entire stadium was still there listening to her. And like, I had tears in my eyes. I went up and I hugged the French coach afterwards. And I was like, I hope that you guys are enjoying this, because this is an experience and this is an environment that every athlete dreams of playing in. And playing at home in front of a crowd like that, I was in awe. It was so much fun. And he was all teary-eyed, and it was just such an incredible moment. And I think that speaks volumes to the support that the French gave to not only their home team, but to the Paralympics as well. And so it was a really cool representation of the impact that hosting the games there had on the French people. And what I was told was that a lot of the locals came back for the Paralympics because they didn't want anything to do with the crowds during the Olympic Games, whether that's true or not. But they were showing up more for the Paralympics than they were for the Olympics, which is just awesome, because that was something that we heard in London too. A friend of mine, one of my teammates former teammates is married to a British guy. And when London hosted it, he said, when you're in America, there are American flags everywhere, but you don't see the country flag out hanging from people's houses. But he's like, during the games, there was such patriotism. And he's like, it was so cool to see, because we don't usually see that. And Americans, you're used to it all the time. But for us, we didn't get to see that. And so it kind of felt reminiscent of that, just being there and having everybody. Like, we ran into, this is not what we were talking about, but it was so much fun because we were at the Eiffel Tower, and I ran into 2 volunteers from the US who came out, and this was like their fourth, fifth, sixth games that they had volunteered at across the world. And this is just what they did. They traveled. They were working at the Team USA house. They were at the venue one day, and I bumped into them again later and during our trip. And it was just so cool for just who showed up for that, because it's, I'm so excited for LA, thinking about experiencing that on home turf. But it was just so much fun just seeing who showed up for the games. And it was just incredible.
We'll get back to the fact that it sounds like you just committed to going for your 7th Paralympic Games. I remember talking to Heather after that Paris match, and she said, I think we were booed once or twice, but it was a good-natured way, and I really liked it because it felt real. And yeah.
100%. Who doesn't? That's like, I remember when we played China in Beijing in the gold medal match in those games, and there were 8,000 people, and like 5 of them were rooting for us. And when we were in Brazil and we played Brazil, it was the same environment. They did not like us one bit. But as an athlete, I love that. You get your energy from that, whether they're cheering for you or not. It's just such a great vibe. And 100%, that French game was totally it.
It was great.
I know there's a lot of back and forth on, just how energetic and how engaged, obviously, the French audience was with the home team. But was there any of that, kind of positive interaction, or even, moments that they cheered for you guys when you were on the court?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think anybody can not cheer for Heather when she destroys the ball like she does. Even in the gold medal match, she had a couple of right side attacks that there was one in particular that she just annihilated. And I think the entire stadium, no matter who they were fans of, cheered for it because it was incredible. So yeah, of course.
Alrighty. So I think we can change a little bit of gears here. I think, we've heard enough about, the support system, that difference between, what Tokyo was heading into Paris here too. Let's talk a little bit about the opening ceremony. You had Nikki as a flag bearer. Was there anything standout-ish or anything notable that you want to just kind of describe about what that experience was like?
Yeah, so this one was really cool. So in games before, we've had to, whenever we walk in, like, we're very secluded. We're behind barricades. There's no public access to the athletes prior to us walking into the tunnel. But this one, the way that it was set up, we were just out in the street. And so once we started the procession, getting closer and closer to the stadium, our walkway was completely packed with people. I mean, they were 15 people deep on either side, and they were just cheering the entire time. And we were there for quite a long time. And the energy and the positivity and the diversity of what country flags you were seeing at this, it was so much fun and it was so cool. And, there's so many different people that live in Paris. And so it was a really, like New York City, that you've got so many transplants and so many different cultures and stuff. So it was a really cool thing to see everybody show up for that. And, to see them all cheering on their country or whatever one it may be. But there were people had signs made, and it was just such a different environment, especially after Tokyo. We didn't get to go. And because there was only 4 of us there and we weren't even sure we were going to be able to play. So we missed out on that one. But it was just such an amazing, just absolutely left an imprint on how cool it was to hear all of that for the 30 minutes before we even walked in. And then the stadium itself, it was really cool, just the way that it was set up. It wasn't like a track and field stadium that we're used to. It was much smaller. But it was very, very cool how they had the whole thing set up. Like, you were right up next to the performers, and the way, like, we found family in the stands because they were so close. It was very, very cool. They did an amazing job.
I'd say that I've never experienced anything like it as well. I've been to a couple Olympic opening ceremonies. This was the funny one because, I saw you guys there because I led a bunch of other press officers. We got through a entrance that apparently was not the correct entrance to actually go to the ceremony. And we were there because the U.S. team was about the last team to show up. There were teams coming in well before that. And the volunteers had created a line for as the teams came off the bus and were just celebrated. There was dancing, cultures, athletes were coming in and doing dancing in their own cultures because the excitement from the volunteers and dancing with volunteers. And I remember telling my press officers, I'm like, I don't think we're going to make it to the stadium because I think it's like half a mile that way. And they're like, this is the greatest thing we've ever experienced.
That's awesome.
When we were there with this giant police escort, which we actually thought was for the U.S. team, and we're like, that's kind of weird, but it wasn't. It was just the police just did a giant escort thing for everybody right at the entrance, and it was just them all with their sirens, just putting on a show and high-fiving fans, and then Team USA arrived, and it was the most amazing things. We were laughing that we thought because they were letting us do everything, that we might have been able to end up just walking in and no one would have checked us. We decided not to chance it because we didn't want to get thrown out the very first day. But that was
probably a good move.
Yeah, it was an unreal experience, and I wish everybody on this call could have been there. I mean, it was super hot, and you guys were in those jackets, and I don't know if you did it.
It was very sweaty.
Yes.
I'm very happy I didn't even attempt to do my hair that day because I was like, this is pointless. It was sweltering. Katie was still sick, and so she was like trying her hardest to get through. She was miserable, and there was another athlete almost passed out. We had her, like, all of our fans on her. It was brutally hot, but you forgot about all that when you walked into the stadium. So,
yep, and all the pictures have our team front and center. Because you guys were up there with Nikki.
They do, yeah. We got some really good shots and some good screen time, for sure.
Yes.
And it was awesome having Nikki lead. Her and Steve, I'm good friends with Steve, and so seeing the two of them up there, they were great choices and great faces to be leading us for those openings. It was very cool.
So kind of a two-parter, like one, How different was this experience compared to other opening ceremonies that you've been a part of? And then where did this rank upon, all the other opening ceremonies that you've also been part of?
Okay, well, easy, I can put Tokyo at the bottom. And I don't even know if it was a good openings or not, but we didn't get to, we did dress up. The outfits were cute. Thank you, Ralph Lauren. But gosh, Beijing was really cool. Rio was great. I'm going to have to say Paris is up in the top 3. How many have I been to? 6. Paris is definitely in the top 3. Where in that, I don't know. Because they tend between, if you do openings and closings, then they start to blur. Sometimes the openings can get a little, back in the day, I don't know how to say this properly without being offensive, but back in the day, sometimes the openings for Paralympics would take on like a good for you kind of vibe. And I really, really just cringe at that because it's just insulting. As the Paralympics have grown and the respect for the Paralympics has grown, that has changed. But a few of them back in the day were a little bit more that way. And I'm like, sweet Lord, okay, come on. We're just athletes. Just make it about athleticism as opposed to, that part of it. So some of them, yeah, we'll just say Paris is in the top 3. They did a great job. And they had some amazing dancers, some beautiful performances. It was really, really incredible.
So the team got up there a week early, correct? And about a week?
We were there 2 weeks before we started competing.
Yes. And you spent a ton of time at the High Performance Center. Sometimes I was wondering if you guys preferred that to the Olympic Village. You were there so much. What was it like to be, it was an amazing facility. And how did the team like that? It was about, half an hour from the village? I don't know. I'm confusing it with how long it took me to get there. So
yeah, that. So we this is the first time that this has been, the High Performance Center has been open for the Paralympics. And I just got to say that they've got to do it always because it was such a cool, it was such an awesome opportunity to have that, to be able to have an easy transport there. Because sometimes in the past, like where we're going to our practice venue and having to drive an hour to get there and then relying on like the village shuttle buses to take us, you'd end up like with a 4.5 hour just chunk of time getting there and back. This one, we were so spoiled because we had our buses and we had Virgil and the chefs there were phenomenal. And it was just so much fun. And having the access and not only like the familiar faces of the Team USA people and having all of the USOPC offices there. So if we needed anything, we could go and handle that right there. We spent a lot of time there. Now, we loved the food. So we, and just between that, and then we had the gym there too, which in the past, our practice facility is just the court. We don't have the option to do weight training or anything like that. You can do that in the village, but then you're trying to fight with all the other countries that are there doing that as well. So this for us was a huge, huge asset. And it was also fun just because the other teams that were training there as well, like we get to interact with Team USA when we see them at the Arc in the village or in the cafeteria, but it's very little. But at this one, since it was just us, all of our sports kind of got to intermingle and get to know each other. And so that was a really fun part of it as well, because it just felt much more close-knit and just more intimate among the Team USA athletes. So I absolutely loved it. And it was a great experience for us. Plus, those hydro massage tables are the coolest thing ever. And I want one that's like, I want to give myself that for Christmas because I laid on that thing as every day for as long as I could. It was phenomenal. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but they are unbelievable.
They sound amazing.
I know.
Do you know what they are, Clarence?
I think I know what you're talking about. I might be getting confused with like the leg ones only, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's like a water bed that you lay on and it shoots up the pressure and it just, oh my gosh, it is the best.
Change the settings on it and all that stuff. Yeah. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
That was my happy place.
That, and then I do want to know what the favorite meal was there. I heard a lot of comments on food there, so we've got to definitely shout out the chefs and what you all appreciated there.
Virgil made this tomato bisque soup that was so good. I love soup. I would eat that every day. He made it, had like a little bit of a kick at the end of it. And it was just like, I'm really kind of weird about eating. And so, especially in the village dining center was a little different this time because it just felt so open. Like you walked in and the food was like right by the doors when you walked in. So it just felt very exposed. It was very strange. I was also very grumpy the first day that we got to the village. And so when I walked in and I'm like it was just, I loved the food at the HPC. But his soup was just, it made me so happy. And he's supposed to give me a recipe. So Virgil, if you're seeing this, you need to send it to me.
I was a big fan of they had giant soft pretzels every day. Pretty amazing.
I did not partake in that.
Yeah. Can't argue. It's just the baguettes and the butter. Yeah.
Well, at the village, they had that bakery right next to the Teen USA house. They had a bakery, and I got a heart-shaped baguette for my birthday, fresh out of the oven. It was delicious. And then they had that, they had a food cart with the Michelin star chefs that would come in and make something every day. And that was where I ate when we were in the village. They were spectacular. I had some like gold leafed egg thing that I never would have eaten at home. It was phenomenal. The food was so good. They're amazing.
Really quick, you mentioned kind of being able to be a little bit more of an intimate setting with a lot of the athletes at the High Performance Center. Are there any athletes or people from other disciplines that you've kind of gotten to know in a better setting that you wouldn't have compared to your typical stay at the village?
Yeah, so for whatever reason, my first overseas tournament, I was with wheelchair basketball. Not with them. Our tournament, we were there together. It was the first Pan American Games. I don't even think they count it as one, but it was right before Athens, where we qualified. Both the men's and women's teams qualified. And that tournament was my first international tournament, and wheelchair basketball was there. So I've always been close with the wheelchair basketball team. And so they were there for the first few days with us as well. Who else was there? We had fencing. We got to talk, on the bus is where a lot of the conversations were happening. We were with track and field a whole bunch. And then I was talking to Clarissa, who is, I don't think she's legally blind, and she did Taekwondo, and she was great. She ended up getting a bronze, or judo, one of them. She ended up getting a bronze, I believe. And so it was really fun because we just got to, I was admiring how she was texting on her phone. I took a picture to show my kids like the adaptability of the cell phone and how she could text. It was really great conversations with people. And, most of it was about kids and families and just the normal parenting stuff, which was great. But then it's always fun. You talk to somebody and then you invest in their competition. And so then we go down to the Arc and watch as much as we could. And it was just, it's always fun to cheer on your friends and, the new teammates that you meet. It's those connections. I just love it.
Going back to the tournament itself, which was amazing. You continued the tradition of losing to China in pool play. I remember being, just because I get super nervous, very nervous afterwards. And every single one of you in an interview was like, oh, it's fine. I mean, not like it's fine. You never want to lose, but you're like, it's fine. This is normal. We've seen them. We know what they have, and we're ready. How did that loss and what they showed you prepare you for the rest of the tournament and the rematch against them?
So they played really well that game, and we did not. And so it goes back to Rio when we started this tradition of losing to them in pool play and then winning. So after that Rio game, where obviously we hadn't beaten them yet on a Paralympic stage. And so when we lost them in pool play, it should have been crushing because it was like, again, it was just repeat, Groundhog's Day, kitty cat. And so, but after that game, it was funny because I remember walking out of that game in Rio and I was like, we did not play our best. We went to 5, they played well, but the errors and the change is happening on our side. And so it felt like it was in our control. And the same thing happened in Paris, that we had some funk happening and we didn't walk out of there feeling like we played our best. We didn't walk out of there feeling like we had no answers to them. And I think when you know a team as well as we know them, and they know us as well, there's a lot of familiar faces, and a lot of those players have been there since Tokyo and before that. So we do know their tendencies. We do know the type of team that they are. So when you can walk out of a game and you can know, like, okay, this didn't work well, we've got to work on this. What they did was them, and they played really well. But we never felt panicked, and we never felt like we didn't have an answer for what they were doing. And so I think that's why we were so cool and calm afterwards, because it was like, again, we've been here before. It's no big deal. We know what we have to do, and okay, shake it off. Let's move on. So
I don't think there's ever been an instance where I've seen, either frantic or a moment of panic or kind of unclarity or uncertainty, like with the team. Do you want to talk about just how maybe that's because of, the bond you all have as a team and how close you are and what the trust is like there? Or is it certain things that you practice with certain scenarios or mindsets or just mentality? Because I mean, you just, it's always together with this team, and like no matter what the other team really comes out with strategically or any off of the, anything that goes off the rails, you guys always just keep your composure, and I've really noticed that.
Well, I'm really happy it looks that way from the outside.
Never mind.
No, we have played, again, 11 out of 12 that were there have all been there before. And we have all played together for 5+ years, anywhere from 5 to 19 years. So we kind of know how to read each other. We know when things are going bad, what to say, what not to say, who to leave alone, who to try to lift up. And there's the people that are like trying to light a fire under somebody, or, everybody knows who those people are and how you can talk to somebody. And sometimes it does get heated. Sometimes some things are said on the court that you have to revisit and apologize for later or talk it through. But we have very open and honest conversations when we have our sports psych meetings. And a lot of times we will request a meeting, and just even not to like do a whole sports psych session, but just to force us to sit down and talk about like, hey, this feels really weird. What's going on here? I don't like this. Even if it's whether on the court or off the court. So we were having, with our schedule going to the HPC, sometimes we were on like a 9:00 bus, and we wouldn't come back until 6. And we're like, we need time to be in our beds, to do laundry, to do stuff. Like, the schedule is too much. It was too much every day. We were there again for like 2 weeks before. So we did a really big investment in what each individual person needs. And so because we've realized, as long as we've known each other, if we make sure that we are each taking care of ourselves, then we'll be better equipped to give our whole on the court when it's needed with the team. Because we have a lot of, homebodies on our team that just need some time alone and not around everybody all the time constantly. So we really try to respect that with each other and give each other the time just to be quiet and in their own room. And thankfully our staff listens to us when we said that it was too much and we just needed a day. We just needed a break. They listened. And it's not like we weren't doing like 4-hour practices each day, but it was just the constant scheduling of everything. And so them listening to us, they're at a place that they trust us, and they know like, we're not being lazy. We're just making sure that when it's time to show up, we're going to be ready for you. And so both mentally and physically, we really try to tune into that for the entire team. And I think that helps to create the image that we have it all together on the court. Bill, our head coach, is, he likes to prepare. And so every scenario that we could face, we've talked it over ad nauseum, over and over again. I think I used that in the right context. I'm not sure, but we prepare a lot, and we have a lot of meetings and a lot of video sessions. And so we know the scenarios that we're going to be faced with. So very little comes to a surprise as far as our competition goes. And so that also helps us not freak out, because we know when somebody's not playing well, and we also know what each other are capable of. And so I'm sure that with a team like ours, and I know on the Olympic side, a lot of people the rosters don't look the same for as long as our roster has looked very much the same. And so we have a familiarity with each other that is not common amongst many sports. And so that definitely plays into the success and the trust that we all have.
I think I saw that happening as as the time wore on while we were at the games. And when I got there, Bill said, any media we're going to do. We're going to do all the media. If they want to come. And then what we realized was it was way more than, there were way more requests than my understanding of previous games, especially Tokyo. Mm-hmm. And that was when Bill started to say, like, hey, let's talk about everything now. Like, once we hit, like, right after the France game. So going into that final week, heading into Brazil. And, I could see not being involved in everything that was going on with the team, which is fine. But I could see that Bill would say, hey, we're going to talk about this with every request because I have athletes that can do it and they could do like 3 in a row and it wouldn't faze them. And he's like, but I've got some that I think just need a break. So anytime you get a request, let's see if I might ask if they could take someone else instead. And it was clear that you guys were having these conversations of being tired and scheduled, and that you want to take advantage of media at the same time. Everybody has different needs. And it was really great to understand that it wasn't about, no, we're not doing any media. It was, some athletes can handle stress or attention better than others. And that's what we're talking through, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And it was really nice.
I appreciate that he had that conversation with you, because it can be a lot, and especially with juggling everything at home and with the time change and trying to manage all the stuff and the hours that you have that matches up with the US hours. And, it hasn't always been that way, to where we've had the back and forth and the open relationships and conversations with the staff that we have now. And so that is a huge part of the health of our team, both on and off the court. And so, I love him for having that boundary and being able to protect us in that way. And protect isn't the right word, but to make sure that he's taking care of us. And so I love that was a part of the conversation, because especially as it's, you're going on, we were there for 24 days. So everybody is you get burnt out. Everybody was hungry. Everybody just wanted just not bread at the end of it. It was really good. But when you eat it every day like that, my breakfast was a baguette and a croissant. It was a lot of carbs, but it was great. Didn't feel the same way. But at that point, you just want to go home and have a cheeseburger.
Yeah. And it became as, there's a lot more restrictions for media at the games. And when, if you weren't talking to an NBC affiliate, that you had to leave the village, was what it was coming down to. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to, and I would be like, I'm not asking my athlete at 8:30 to get in a bus to go to Team USA house to do a 10-minute interview. It's just not happening. And, and we had to, I had to turn down some of those things. I would always ask Bill first, and then he would be like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, she can't do it in her room. We already broke that rule once.
So I know Emma went to the Team USA house for it was like a 2-minute thing.
And it took forever.
Yeah.
And, it was still early on enough. I think that, it was before the France game. So I think it was that Saturday. So it was early on. But after that, I'm like, I'm not putting any of our athletes through that anymore. And I could see you can see the exhaustion and the tired and how you've got to focus on your job. And that's tough. And stuff sometimes.
It seems so silly. Like, I'm too tired to do an interview. It's so bougie sometimes. But it's funny. My husband always gives me a hard time, because he'll be like, "Oh, didn't you just have 3 weeks off? Like, go get ready. Go get the kids ready for school." But I'm like, it's not relaxing. It's not. Yes, we had time off, and yes, I could take a nap on most days, but it's not like a relaxing environment. And it's very hard for people that aren't there. And in that world, it's like between the meetings and the schedules and the everything that you're trying to manage, it's not a vacation by any stretch. And you're exhausted by the end of it. Even though it feels like you didn't do all that much in a day, you're still exhausted. Where's you?
I think
so. Thank you for taking care of us and not overwhelming us.
Yeah. Severn was out there with the beach teams, and that was his first games. And I said, you're going to get back, and people are going to say, you must have had such a great time. And you're going to be like, is that what it was? I mean, because it is a great experience.
Yes.
It is super, but it's so exhausting. And You know, and I try and tell people it's an amazing experience, but I am just going to work every day in a different city, but the city is strange. The food is different, even though you can get the same thing. You're out of schedule. It's super hot. There's mold in my hotel room. You know, the hotel is like this big, so you have to turn your side to get somewhere. I'm like, it's not vacation, even though I posted some pictures of me, you know, doing some fun things.
Yes.
I was there for 2.5 weeks, and those were like 2 things I saw. So,
Yes. Yep.
mostly on a train. I was mostly on trains. And I think I was on the, I was on the trains less than I think the Olympic press officers were. I think they were staying, I think, closer down to the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so the high performance center was much farther away for them.
Gotcha.
Even though our venue was far from where I was, it was not that big of a deal. It was a straight shot. Yeah, it's exhausting. It's not a vacation.
No, I had no concept of location and how far away everything was. Then the gold medal night afterwards, we went to my husband's hotel. It was like 3:30 in the morning by the time we got there. And I was like, this is an hour away. This is ridiculous. How I don't even know where we're at location wise. It was very far. So God bless you.
The venue was very far. The venue was very far.
Yes.
It was basically at the airport.
Bring it back into the Paris talk. I mean, performance. I mean, your performance was huge. Some would say probably very, very, very critical there. I mean, you were named best blocker. So obviously very standout there. Do you want to talk about what you think your performance was and, you know, the team's overall performance and, you know, what getting that award meant to you?
So blocking is what I do. It's my contribution to the team. And, you know, it feels like a very you know, you block the ball so many times, and if it doesn't go down, it's a tough stat to get. Because you always feel like if you don't get it, you're messing them up in the back, like you're trying. And when they tool off of you, whether high hands or whatever, it's the most frustrating thing in the world. I hate it. And I even thinking back, like after Paris, and they told me at the Team USA house, I was like, I could have made it 24. There was one that I should have blocked and I didn't. And my team got in my head because some people were like, we're not blocking, we're dropping our hands, do this. And I was like, why am I questioning myself? And I didn't block one ball. And I was like, why did I do that? I never drop my hands. What am I doing? Stop it. Stop listening to everybody else and just do what you're supposed to do. You've gotten this far doing it. Like, stop messing with your own head. And so I'm really mad at myself on that one block in particular, because I should have had one more. And so that is how I feel about my performance. I appreciate the award, the acknowledgement, but I'm still really unhappy with myself. And I haven't even watched the game because I don't want to see me not block that ball. So,
Clarence, does that sound familiar as a middle blocker?
It absolutely does. Like, I'm speaking my language here. I'm like, oh, just the one, and if my block was too narrow, and this happened here, and I messed up while I'm overthinking things. I know better. Yep, I hear you 1,000%.
It's those ones. And maybe that's what makes us good at what we do, is that we're critical. And it's like, I opened up too soon and the ball went down the front, and those ones don't leave. So hopefully it'll continue in this next training and it'll help me be better, but I will definitely be striving for 24 for the next time. But I do have to say it was really cool. When I was told that it was, both on the men's and women's side, that was the highest blocking number. And that was a really cool thing, because some of those guys are really big, and some of those teams really love to just challenge those hands, and they'll just hit square into the bottom of those blocks. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know, it's like the power game of who can hit harder. And sometimes I feel like they block all the time. So it was really cool to hear that. That was, I'm very proud of that, because that was a cool thing. So, and I like to feel like I'm making a difference for my team. So as long as I can do that, Kaleo, our setter, is always like, just what you're doing matters. And I'm like, but set me a 1. And she's like, when it's right. I'm like, okay, well, you're the best setter in the world. I guess I should trust you. However, I'm just going to keep yelling and be loud. I'm here when you need me. I love you, Kaleo. And as a middle, you understand.
But totally. It's just like, I know that ball wasn't perfect, but you could have got it to me. Come on now. What are you doing here?
Never happy.
Yeah, but I mean, moving into a little bit of a circle back, talking about support systems and, what the what the home crowd was like, what it was like for the U.S., how you all supported each other throughout your experience on the ground there too. It was pretty difficult for your whole family to be able to come to the games, but your husband did show up for the final, and I think you spent a little bit of time afterwards with each other as well too. Do you want to talk about that and what it meant?
Yeah. So we have never been on a honeymoon. So we've been married for 14 years and we never have gone on a honeymoon. And so I was like, okay, you come in for the finals on Saturday. We're going to have Sunday, all of Sunday to ourselves. We're going to go see Paris. I don't have to go to closings. We're going to spend the day and we'll both fly home on Monday morning. And he's like, okay, sure, let's do it. And then the day before he flew out, he told me that he changed his ticket and that he was getting in on Saturday morning and he was leaving Sunday morning. And I was so mad. And it was because he was worried about our kids at home. Our two oldest had started a new school, and our older boy, our youngest of those two, but our 11-year-old was devastated, and he was adamant that he was not going. He hated everything about it. It was really just the uniform, because he does not wear pants. And in this uniform, he's got to wear dress pants and a blazer. And he was just heartbroken. And so my husband was like, if I'm not there, he is not going to get on the bus, and your parents are not going to be able to get him to school, and he can't miss the third day of school. Like, it's just ridiculous. We can't do this. So he was so worried about it. So we still have not even had a honeymoon. We had he was on the ground for maybe 30 hours. I don't even think that long. And plus the game was so late, and we rushed to the Team USA house. We were able to toast with the Order of Vigos thing. I saw him. I literally said, hold my beer. And I ran upstairs to go and do the media. And then by the time I came downstairs, they were kicked out because the Team USA house had closed. And they were texting me from the side. They're like, they kicked us out. We're outside. And we went across the street, and we had 2 hours that we hung out at the only bar that was open. That was just across the street from the Team USA house. And there was a bunch of families that were there because that was the only place to go. And then he woke up and we left. So it was, City of Love, right? It was magical. It was a great 3 hours that I got to see him. But no, it was him being there was amazing. And he almost didn't make it, actually, because they dropped him off at the wrong side of that venue. And that venue was huge. There was a whole bunch of different sections of it. It was a huge convention center, and they dropped us off at the complete opposite side. And so he was running through, started running through the building, and it was some furniture convention, and it was all closed and dark, and there were cops, and they were yelling at him because he was not supposed to be there. And he's like, no. And he doesn't speak French. So it was just a lot of gesturing. And so he walked in. I think he actually made it for the anthem this time. Rio, he didn't make it for the anthem. He was late to that one too. But he made it. He made it, and he was there, and it was wonderful. Like I said, the one thing he always says is, if you're going to go, win. So that is no pressure, but that is his mantra to me every time I leave, which is a lot. But yes, he's incredibly supportive. And my whole town was watching, and the kids got to see it. And so it was, seeing that when you come home, it's always weird because for so long, the Paralympics, nobody was watching it because it wasn't on. I remember in Athens, it was an hour-and-a-half special on some outdoor network channel that they played in December. So 3 months after the games. And that was all the coverage that you had. And there was no social media. There was no nothing. And then go to Paris, and it's the highest tuned in Paralympic games ever. And it's just, I come home, and the town's random people are I watched you, I saw you, blah, blah, blah. And it was just so cool. It was just so much fun to feel that support when we got home, and to know that people really were watching. And it's really the most heartwarming thing to hear. And we've come so far, and to know that people actually care and are invested in the sport is just the biggest, I think, success of this movement. And it's just it's random people that are watching now. And it's just randomly on your main NBC channel for games. And it's just the way that it's supposed to be in my mind. And so it's great that we're starting to get that investment from the media as well. My husband's cousin is in Florence, and they were watching it down there. My sister-in-law, his family's all over there. And so they were making posts about it. And it's as a sport lover, sitting volleyball is so much fun to watch. And that's something that I always tell people. I'm if you just watch a Paralympic sport, it's just a sport. It's just fun. They're challenging and they're great. And the competition is great. And just watch it as a sport. It doesn't have to be this, oh, it's a disabled sport. No, it's just a sport. Just enjoy it for what it is. The competition is great. And so I feel like we're getting to that point. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
So I think the last time we had you on, we mentioned in the beginning that it was a special episode in Tokyo, very quick, very fast. And, the focus was what was happening during those games as well, too. But we never really got a chance to talk about your background. So for those who are listening that don't know, and if you're comfortable with that, do you want to talk about share a little bit with the audience about your history and your qualification for the sitting team?
Sure. Yep. So when I was 11 years old, I was diagnosed with bone cancer in my left leg, just below the knee. And so in order to save my mobility, basically, I opted for a surgery called rotationplasty, which is really, really cool. I couldn't keep my knee joint because the tumor was too close to get clear margins. So they cut about mid shin and mid thigh. They cut the bone and they took out the bone and the tumor and the knee joint, but they kept all the nerves and muscles intact. And they turned the bottom part of my leg, the lower half of my leg with the foot, turned it around 180 degrees and connected it to the remaining part of the femur. So my ankle joint is now backwards and functions as my new knee joint, which is enabled me to continue to play. I played standing volleyball through high school, and I've water skied and, rock walls. And the only thing that I struggle with is fitting in an airplane seat and roller coaster seats because my femur is too long on that side. And so I just don't fit, but a lot of people don't fit in airplane seats anymore. So it's not unique to me. But the surgery completely saved my life. And I have, I'm very mobile. It was the best choice I could have made. My parents let me make that choice when I was 11. My mom was worried about how you bring up that you have a backwards foot on a first date. She was thinking of me as a teenager and a young adult and stuff. So I love her for that, but they trusted me that this was what I wanted and what I wanted for my future. And so it was the best choice I ever made. And I got back into volleyball probably, 6 months to a year after I had my surgery. And my older sister played volleyball and she played at Nebraska Omaha and at University of Tampa. And so volleyball was always a big part of our life. And then I was able to adapt and adjust my approach to work with my prosthetic. And, I kind of was goofy footed because I wanted to take off on my right foot. So I had coaches that helped me figure out okay, how we're going to dive to this side. And, what I love about volleyball is that, there's no one way to do anything. And so we really just figured out how I needed to change my body to make it work with the sport. And I had supportive coaches that helped me. And I played club and I was a part of my varsity team in Arizona and we won state. We were a good team. And I started there. So I was still a decent standing player. And then when I was 16, I was at a club tournament in California and one of the officials noticed my leg and came up to my parents and they, gave us a card and they're like, reach out to them. They're trying to start a Paralympic team. And we said, what's the Paralympics? And we had no idea what it was. And at first I had no interest whatsoever when I found out that it was sitting volleyball. I was 16. I don't want anybody to view me as disabled. I never viewed myself that way. And I certainly didn't want to be sitting on the ground playing volleyball because I had worked so hard to be a good standing player. So the coach, Mike, at the time begged me to come to the gym. And so in February 2003, we went out to the Springs and he promised me a t-shirt at least for coming. And so I came out and it was the most unreal sight I have ever seen on a volleyball court. Mike was a quadruple amputee and he was standing there with his crutch, standing up, pointing his hooks, trying to direct these players, these athletes, these people on how to play. And there's limbs everywhere. There's prosthetics all on the sidelines. And I'm like, what did I just walk into? I didn't have an adaptive community. I didn't know any other amputees. There was no support group that I went to. So I'd never been around other amputees. And so walking in there, I was like, holy smokes. But I sat down, we started playing, and I absolutely fell in love with the potential that the sport had, and the challenge that it was. And as I continued to train, it made me a better standing player as well. So I always tell coaches that they should use sitting volleyball as a warm up and as a training tool, because it really it helps you to adjust your upper body. So if your feet don't quite get there, you're better at making those fine-tuned adjustments. And so I always try to push standing coaches to incorporate sitting, because it really is great. And so I just fell in love with the sport, and I had the option to play D1 ball or it wasn't an or, but I had the option to play, but I chose to stay and focus on the Paralympics because naively, I thought it would be nicer on my body, but sitting volleyball is brutal on your body. And I don't know that I made the right choice, but not doing it. But no, 21 years later, I never would have thought that this would have turned into the journey that it has been. And it's truly been incredible. It's the people that you meet at these games. And it's just to have 6 Paralympic experiences where you just you're exposed to so much, and you get to meet people from different countries, and you get to hear their stories. And my favorite thing about the Paralympics and adaptive athletes in general is the stories behind the athletes and what they've been through, what they've overcome, what they've seen. And it's so much fun to hear people and hear their stories. And I love that about being an athlete and being, a Paralympian, just because that's the place that everybody's, that's where you get to hear all that stuff. And it's just such a cool environment. So I'm very grateful for what it's all given me.
You mentioned, your first time in the gym and really being around, those adaptive athletes and, sport, and, you jumped in and fell in love with it. But were there any athletes there that really helped you feel a little bit more settled or at home, or, kind of welcomed you with open arms there?
Yeah. So, Gina McWilliams was there at that first camp, and she was on our team for a while. She was through Beijing. She was around a little bit after that. She did make it to London though. She had retired before then. She was kind of the mom of our group. She was older. We were, again, 16 years old, 17 years old. And so she was just a grown up. And so she had a life of experiences being an amputee. She lost her leg in a car accident, so she didn't live her whole life that way, but she just had a great attitude, and she made it she didn't pull any punches. She was very dry, sarcastic humor. And it was the first environment that I had been in where people were just like openly like joking and making fun of each other, but in a kind way, and just like amputee jokes, because when you don't hang out with other amputees, nobody else understands what it's like. And so it was the most comfortable feeling with strangers that I've ever felt, because it was just so normal to them. And it was just, there was nothing weird or, unusual. It was just normal. And so, that was the most comforting thing. And so she really helped just make that environment there. And there were some other teammates other women there that ended up being teammates for a long time as well. That was just the start of some really great friendships. And again, because you have that commonality of understanding the hard days and why they're hard and how difficult it can be. And, so it's just an instant understanding among strangers. And so that was one of the coolest things, and one of the biggest benefits to my life that I didn't know that I needed, was other amputees and other adaptive athletes, because it's just a different understanding that other people can't really, unless they've walked in the shoes, they can't understand what you've been through. So that was a really huge benefit to entering this journey.
So you've talked some of this, but this was 2024 marked 20 years of sitting volleyball in the Paralympics. You're a 6-time Paralympian, and you sort of implied you're going to keep going, but you also said it's terrible on your body. So is it all about whether or not your body holds up, or is it for sure you're going to try?
I am definitely going to try. I feel great. I do feel great. My body, knock on wood, my body, I feel wonderful, and I'll chalk it up to chasing around 4 kids. But it's, I'm very fortunate to be able to try. My husband is very supportive, and the idea of my kids being able to come and see me, and my sister has never seen me compete. And so it would be just amazing. And this is beautiful. It would be lucky number 7. It'd be 25 years of a career. And it just seems like the ultimate Roulon Gardner moment, where I can just leave my shoe on the court and just take a bow and say, thank you, USA, I'm out. and it just seems, I don't know if that's how it'll play out. There's still 4 years to, and we have some great athletes in the pipeline. So I don't know what that will look like, but that would be a really incredible way to end this next quad. And some of my teammates are like, Brisbane 2032. I'm like, no, not a chance. But it's very strange being a city volleyball athlete for this long. I've been doing this longer than I haven't been doing it. And so there's that fear in retirement of like, what will I do? Who am I when I'm not this? This will always be a part of me, but when I stop doing it, what do I do next? Or, am I only a mom? Do I, it's scary to think of what's on the other side of that. And so right now I don't want to know what's on the other side of that. And I want to keep training and I want to keep working towards a game at home where my whole family can come and see me play, because that would be a beautiful thing. Plus I want to see how LA is going to pull this off. It's going to be, they're passing the torch at the end of the Paris opening ceremonies. It looks like it's going to be a great time.
Yeah. So talking about, what to expect in LA and, this current experience that you have received in Paris, can you narrow down like what your favorite memory from all your Paralympic experiences has been?
Oh gosh.
Or top three, soft top three.
Yeah. Obviously winning in Rio was a huge one. All of the wins were, this one felt like there were so many external factors that just kind of were like little punches to the gut of the team this time around, like between illnesses and things happening at home. And, it was just there were some weird external forces at work during the Paris games that made some things feel a little bit heavier. But the win is just always. So Rio was, of course, the best. Tokyo felt like, thank God we made it. And oh my God, it's over with. And I can't believe that we just won, considering everything that we just went through. But thank goodness. And so that was like the biggest relief of these games are done and we get to go home. That was the most stressful games, I know, for a lot of people and for a lot of reasons. But, to stand on the top of the podium is, of course, the ultimate dream. And so those 3 wins are definitely the big moments. Definitely the top memories. The Beijing game, the gold medal match in front of those fans was right up there because it was just such a cool experience. And then I'd have to say one of the most impactful and favorite is from my Athens games. It was the first time we were in the dining hall and there was an athlete who came in, and I don't know what country he was with. I don't know what sport he played, but he had his bad leg like wrapped around like a stick, like just a regular stick. And I just remember sitting there, I was 18, and I remember just sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, this guy, for whatever reason, didn't amputate his leg. He's walking around with a stick and he's out here competing for his country. And that is something that will always stick with me, because I just remember like, oh my gosh, like anything you put your mind to, you can do it. And this guy is proof of that. And so that's one of the top experiences and just memories from the games, just because it was just so eye-opening to me.
Where you're going to finish on your family.
Okay.
You talked about them. You got 4 kids, and I think that one of the most special moments that I got to witness during the games was NBC sitting down with you, Kaleo, and Katie to talk about motherhood. And when I saw the final product, I was sad because it was only a couple minutes, and this was a long interview. It was a lot of your time, and it was emotional, and I think there were tears from the camera people and everything. And it was, my favorite part was that I think it sounded like it was new to you guys too, to actually just sit there and have this conversation together about motherhood. How was that? It felt like a bonding experience.
Oh, it 100% was. We'll lament about things, but, Katie's in the early phases of, Claire's only a little over a year and, are coming up on 2. And, and Kaleo and I are dealing with some of the bigger kid issues. And so it's so great to have a reason to sit down and talk about all the hardships, because, we all manage so much just for our families while we're away. And there's so much that we take on. And so being able to sit there and talk about that and just air the tough stuff and just to let each other, know that we see what they're doing and to recognize how hard it can be. And just, just a reminder that you're not alone in it. And so we've never taken the time or been given the opportunity to just sit there and do that. And so aside from like talking about just little catch ups and little random, like, oh, hey, how are the kids? What's going on? We've never been able to do like we did in that interview. And so it was really awesome to be able to do that and to be able to hear some of the stories that don't come up in daily conversation. And so it was a really beautiful hour plus that we sat there and got to talk and just be moms together and with no volleyball in it. And just, it was really a magical part of that.
And I am not a mom, but I remember sharing, I've shared something that you said with some other people that I know, and I don't remember if it made it on the broadcast or not, but they asked about having it all or something like that. And you specifically said, it's not about having it all, because you mentioned you do miss things. There are real sacrifices on both sides, and that it felt like, the whole myth that like, I can do everything and I'm so happy about it, because it didn't feel real. And I think it doesn't feel real. And you kind of said, it's not real. There are sacrifices. And I've told that to some of my mom friends, and they felt very seen when I shared that somebody said that.
Yeah, no, and you want to try to do it. And I can't watch. My sister used to send me these Instagrams of this mom, making butter from home and her homemade bread. And I'm like a baby attached to her. And I'm like, well, good for her, because that doesn't happen here. We got too much going on. We got too much scores. I don't have time. My house is a mess. I can't do that. Like, I just accept the fact that I would much rather go outside and play football with my kid than make butter. It sounds great, but I'm going to buy it at the store. Like, it was just like the letting go of the expectations. And then, and when you're away so much, like we're going for our celebration next weekend, and it's like, I'm missing a really big day for my daughter, and I'm trying to figure out how I can do both, but it's not going to work. And I haven't had the heart to tell her yet, because it's a really big day for her. And so it's like, you feel really selfish, and that's the guilt you take. But then you have to go back and be like, okay, I deserve to be able to go celebrate this, because we didn't get to celebrate it as a team after the games. I know that was the one thing that Katie wanted. She's like, can we just try to find a time where we can all get together? But because the game was so late, and then that mad rush to the Team USA house, and not all of us made it. And so like, we haven't had that time. So I have to remind myself that I'm not a bad mom simply because I want to go and honor what these last 3 years, ended up, what we just accomplished. And so it's tough, and you just can carry a lot of guilt about that. So it's important to remind yourself that no, you can't do it all, but you can still try to be as present as you can, even when you're not physically there. But thank you, because I'm happy that helped them, or at least let them know that they're not the only one.
It does.
It's real.
There's a lot of pressure, I think, to be super mom and super at your career, or super as an athlete when athletics is your career. And it doesn't seem possible all the time.
Yeah.
No, there are failings for sure. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
I think the reality in a lot of that is, whatever, like, being present with so many different households and situations and circumstances there. And do you have any, excuse me? Okay. I was saying, do you have any maybe words of advice or words of comfort for, moms that are in a situation of, trying to be super mom, and, this is what the stereotype is, or the cookie cutter picture, versus what the actual reality is, and what, families love and appreciate no matter what?
I mean, all your kids want from you is that they're seen by you. They want you to watch them do a handstand or kick a ball that doesn't go very far, or, look at their drawing that doesn't look anything like what they're saying it is. They just want to see that. And so if you can just, be present and tune into them, they don't need the home cooked meal every night. They don't need, we put so much pressure on our own selves to make sure that everything's perfect, that everything's clean, that everything's blah, blah, blah. They don't care about that. They just want to play with you or to sit down with you or talk to you. And so if you can just put all that stuff aside and just enjoy your time with your kids, I mean, they're not little for long, and it's heartbreaking because we're looking at Cassidy, who's our youngest. She's 2.5, coming up on 3. And I want to go back to the phase that Curtis is in. I want another one because there's so much in that little phase, and then they grow up and then they become 13-year-olds who have a mouth on them, and it's just like, no, you were sweet, where'd you go? I want the baby phase again. And so it's so hard to enjoy the moment when you're in it because they're so long and hard. But it's just, if you can just take a deep breath and know that you're doing good. I had a mom at Trader Joe's. I don't even know if she was a mom. She was a woman at Trader Joe's the other day. And she looked at me. Cassie and I just walked in, and for whatever reason, she was like, "You're doing a great job." And I was like, "Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea the morning I had with my older ones." And, and so it was just like, it doesn't take much to make your kids feel like you love them. And that's the whole reason that we had them, is to love on them. And so sometimes it's just as simple as a 10-second hug. And so take the time for that. And that, I tell my kids, I'm like, research says that a 20-second hug can totally boost your endorphins and your serotonin and all the good feeling stuff. So get over here, whether you want to or not, hug me. And so we start a lot or end a lot of days like that. Whether it's true or not, I'll take that bit of science.
I think that's a pretty good place to end it. Thinking about hugs.
Hugs. Are you coming next weekend?
I am coming. I'll be out Thursday night and then leave Saturday night, so I'll be able to come to training too. And I got to try and help set up that party for you guys, which is not my strong suit, setting up parties, but I'm going to try.
Nobody cares what it looks like. We just want to do it. We just want to celebrate.
Great.
Right? So you don't have no pressure.
It's going to be fun. I'm excited. It'll be
great to see you.
Yeah.
It'll be great to see you.
Thank you. I'm really excited. I was pushing for it. And where can people follow you on social media? I know you've got a sort of active IG now.
I'm terrible. I've never even posted anything about us winning. I'm like, we'll do a 1 month out post win. Nope. Now it's 2 months and we're going into 3 months. Yep. I do have an Instagram at Lora.Webster, Lora. And sometimes I'll do things, but a lot of times I won't. I give a whole lot of credit to people who are like every single day, full-time job. I do not have the energy. I don't have the tech savviness. I've sat down with Emma and I'm like, Emma, help me do this, please. I don't know what to do. And she's like, oh, you just do. I'm like, okay, no, I will never have a sponsorship deal unless it is like, I don't even know. I don't have the
mentioned
energy.
we're gonna collab with you, so you can just click a button.
Thank you.
You can click the accept button and it'll show up on your feed.
That is what my page thrives on.
Yeah.
Is all of the work that Lora did in Paris. I'm like, share, post a story, accept. Thank you very much.
Great. Good.
Yep. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. And go get, it's Cassidy, your youngest? Then
yeah.
Go get Cassidy from her neighbors.
Gotta go rescue her.
Yeah. All right.
Or not Cassidy. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much. It was so good to see you all.
Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
I really appreciate the attention to detail that you brought into that question about motherhood, Lora, and not only that, but about the time, effort, and what that moment really felt like. I know the NBC piece was a lot shorter than what the actual segment was, but I'm really glad you brought up the significance, and I really appreciate Laura's answer for that one as well too. I think that's a very unique and a very very significant note to end that interview. That was also an amazing interview on.
Yeah, it was. Lora is so great, and I haven't been able to talk to any of the women since we all got back from Paris and the gold medal. And when you're in the games, you're not you don't have a lot of time to really talk about how everybody is doing, and I'm of course separate from, I'm not in the village. So, I don't hear everything that's going on. And for her to be honest about some of the difficulties that you experience at the Paralympics, or, if you're at the Olympics that you don't see. And then that motherhood conversation was just so meaningful for, to really talk about the difficulties of being away from your kids, but also having your own goals as an elite athlete, which are important. And I think I had asked NBC if they were ever going to put the whole thing somewhere, and that's not really something that they do. And I think the whole thing could have been incredibly meaningful for a lot of parents to hear.
Yeah, I mean, steering in a little bit of a different direction. I mean, can we just talk about how, what a decision to make at 11 years old, and, just the trust and, transportation. Wow. The transparency, that her parents were able to have with her at the age, and say, hey, this is what's happening, and this is a decision, that ultimately does come down to you. And, she made that decision, and, obviously is so confident about it now too. But, at 11 years old, that's significant. I think that holds a lot more weight and a lot more, not only maturity, but just, foreshadowing to what decisions people make at, heck, I'm 29 years old now. And, decisions like that are so challenging, and it's different. So just to really be presented something like that at the age, and to see what the result is now, it's very, very admirable.
Yeah. Everything, about what she said in that whole conversation was great. I mean, who knew when you say congratulations on being best blocker that her answer was going to be, yeah, but I should have had one more. I'm grateful, but, and I mean, that is an elite athlete for you. You're always wanting more, and you're always wanting to be better. And, I think there was at least one match where I think she had 6 or something, and it seemed like she had 30, but it was only 6, but so many. She was so good. And when the team really needed something, she was there, except for that one time, apparently. So, and I need to know which game that was, because I want to go back, and if I thought the same thing, I'm like, oh, that was it right there.
And it's insane. And she just really just kind of shows you where her mind is at, that competitive athlete level. It's just, exactly the moment, exactly the match. And she was like, I'm not watching that match, so I'm going to get mad again, because I know this could have happened there too. And just like, it's just the one about. But I thought that was insanely funny too. It's just funny, relatable. It is just, congrats to you, Lars, because you definitely earned that. And we hope you get that one more in the next quad, because now you're going to be thinking about it all the way up to then too.
Yeah, I could have talked about every match more with her, but we only have so much time. But just a great human being and a terrific athlete, and so inspiring. And I think you're going to spend more time with her in December at the AVCA convention. So I think that she is one of our athletes that is going out there. So
that'd be very nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there'll be. I think
the details are still in the mix too.
Yeah. They're all in the mix, and I'm probably just putting that out there. And someone will say, "Why'd you say that?" I'm like, well, as far as I know,
you gotta have her.
She's going to be there, and now I put it out into the universe. So yeah. But anyway, we got more volleyball happening. Moving on to upcoming events on the club side. We got nothing going on this weekend for USA Volleyball, but you can find any upcoming events at usavolleyball.org, because those events are going to start coming up fast and furious starting in December, I believe.
And speaking of December, just coming back around to the indoor junior side of things with registrations and numbers and what all the fun stuff's looking like there. Registration's still open for the boys Mountain Classic qualifier in Denver, Colorado. Registration is open now, I believe, through the end of November. So be sure to register your teams. The tournament dates are December 13th through the 15th. Registration is also still open for the Salt Lake City Girls 18s qualifier, happening January 24th through the 26th of 2025. We are currently sitting at 127 teams, which is the most the tournament has ever had since the 18s division has branched off into its own event. So record numbers there. Be sure to be a part of that history by registering your teams. Speaking of history, this is stressfully great to talk about, but Sunshine Classic Girls Qualifier Weekend 1 registration is still open. Those dates are happening February 22nd through the 24th, and so is registration for Weekend 2 of the Sunshine Classic Qualifier, happening February 28th through March 2nd. Numbers, 958 teams as of right now, and then for Weekend 2, that was for Weekend 1, and for Weekend 2, we are at 986 teams.
You gonna make that 1,000?
Oh, I don't know. That's talk to Molly. That's the event manager you want to talk to there. But I'll be there for both weekends of that madness. Volleypalooza at the next level there. Again, it's stressfully great. I'm just stressful because I don't want it to rain. I don't want any weather delays indoors. Yes, that has happened before in that convention center. It's gonna be a great time. Going over to Salt Lake City Showdown, registration is open for Weekend 1 and 2 as well. Weekend 1 is April 5th through the 7th of April 2025. I said it very weird. And then, Weekend 2 event dates are April 11th through the 13th of 2025. Weekend 1 numbers are sitting at an even 600 teams. And then Weekend 2 numbers are sitting at about 567. Both weekends have had significant increases, and we're, again, record numbers, record year, record. I don't know. Well, going over to the pro side of things, we have the Norseca Beach Tour happening October 31st through the 4th of November. Moving on to the pro side of things, we have the Norseca Beach Tour Bonaire happening October 31st through the 4th of November. Also, we have the Beach Pro Tour Elite 16 in Rio happening November 6th through the 10th. Be sure to check out the calendar on our website for all event details. Remember, listeners, you can rate, review, and share this podcast with your friends, families, and teammates, because it really, really, really helps this podcast grow and reach new listeners over the past 3 years. Again, thank you all. We cannot do it and could not have done it without your support. We truly mean that from the bottom of our hearts. And remember, check out our video episodes on our website and on YouTube. Especially for this episode, PK was just all over the place and stood up for all over my laptop monitor because of that too. But great to see a guest appearance from PK as well. If there is an athlete you want us to talk about or talk with, or a topic you want to learn more about, or maybe you know the club that should be featured on this episode or this podcast as well, you can email us at the USAV show at usav.org. Or if you're Sour Patch Kids and want to talk sponsorship, you can email us at the same address, the USAV show at usav.org. Let us know how much you're loving the show. And remember, you can also text us. So make sure you text us and say hello. And just a reminder, new episodes are dropping every other week. And until then, thank you for listening to another episode of the USA Volleyball Show. We are the official podcast of USA Volleyball.
This has been the USA Volleyball Show with Clarence Hughes and Stephen Munson. Produced by Curtis Ward. Our content producer is Laura Fawcett. Our marketing lead is Bree Jaycox. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to rate and review. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the USA Volleyball Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.